Lane Jordan Burday, along with Dr. Lisa Burkhardt Worley, and welcome to Pop Talk. It's the program where you never know what topics might pop up. But today, we know you are going to love this show because we are going to speak to a man of principle who boldly stood up for his rights and our rights. And because of his bravery, there has been a book and a movie made about his life. Lisa will introduce our guest.
Well, thank you so much, Lane. Because I'm a sports fan and because I was a sportscaster for 20 years, I have followed this story with great interest. Our guest today is Coach Joe Kennedy. He's a retired Marine and former high school football coach who fought in the courts for 7 years to secure the right to pray at his school's football games. We're going to get more into the story in just a minute, but as Lane said, Coach Kennedy has both a book and a movie made about his life. You may have seen the movie in the theaters. It's called Average Joe. By the way, I just loved that movie. It's one of my favorites. But now Coach Kennedy is working for Coral Ridge Ministries in Florida, where he will be recording content for CRM on a regular basis. He's also going to be speaking nationally for them and will eventually produce a documentary with Coral Ridge Ministries. First of all, we want to welcome you, Coach Kennedy. It is so great to have you on Pop Talk, and congratulations on this new job. I just absolutely adored your movie, Average Joe, and it has a really fun beginning that took me off guard, caught me off guard. It was almost startling for anyone who has not seen it. So I'm just going to say that because I don't want to take anything away from the movie. But I want to start just by talking about your life. You were not always a believer, and you were, in fact, an atheist for 30 years. I know the movie talked about it, but you had a very difficult childhood. I can relate to that. So can you share about your upbringing and how that may have contributed to your lack of faith?
Oh, absolutely. And that's the beauty of it. You never see what is when you're in the middle of the fight and all when you're down and out. You don't see how all the pieces fit together. And thank God we have a God that has his divine ideas involved, and everything works out to his glory anyway. So I was in group homes and foster homes and boys' homes. I was kicked out of every school. I was a very, very angry kid, and I didn't know what to do with that. That was a great thing about me being a kid. It prepared me to be a Marine because of all the fighting I was in. It kind of directed it to the right path. And then, of course, the Marine Corps, that path led me to learn more discipline and what it means to stand up for our constitutional rights as an American. And that just led it to when God stepped in, I was already pre-cut and ready to go for it.
I just cannot believe that you were an atheist for 30 years. I mean, I that shows how God can truly perform miracles. And then, of course, I love that the Marines really give you that discipline. I've heard that helps a lot of men. Well, can you summarize that stretch of your life? And did God start working on you at that point when you were serving in the military?
That's very interesting that I did not see it. I didn't see him working on my life even as a kid. It takes it years and years of when, your whole life is an entire jigsaw puzzle and God just throws all the pieces out there. But once you start seeing how some of them fit together, and over the past 30 years, being an atheist and seeing all the bad things and the worst things that the world has to offer, and then seeing how everything fits into place when you start to see that picture. And I see God's fingerprints on every single one of the pieces, and it is just amazing.
It's fun to look back, isn't it? I love to look back because I had a dysfunctional childhood, and then when I look back now as a believer, and I see God really did protect me in so many ways, and He was right there with me, putting people in my path. I actually had a friend lead me to Christ when I was a freshman in high school, and I was going down the wrong
Oh,
path
wow.
myself, and so it was just like He intervened at that point. One time in my life, though, I wanted to be a coach. I was secondary education coaching. and I took a lot of PE classes in college, but ultimately I did switch to communications. And so that was probably a better choice for me. However, you ended up in coaching a different way. Can you discuss how you segued from the Marines to becoming a high school football coach?
Yes, that was the most, for me, the strangest transition. And now looking at it, it absolutely makes sense. But I got out, I married my childhood sweetheart, and I thought my life was going to be perfect at that point. I was going through so many transitions. Going from military to civilian is hard enough, but going into a marriage with a woman that's already has kids and has had a broken relationship, you know how much trouble that can be. So when I was watching Facing the Giants after I was offered the job of coaching, I saw the movie Facing the Giants just by purely coincidence, of course, wink, wink, hello, God's there. It was just amazing that I heard my calling. And even though I thought I wanted to have a nice, quiet life, God called me to really step into these young men's life and to be an influence on them. It wasn't about X's and O's and teaching them how to play football. It was teaching them how to become better young men in their lives. And that's where my life went absolutely just coincided with it.
And I want to say something there. Probably what you did is you were able to help these boys, the help that you really wanted yourself at one time. Is that true?
Oh, desperately needed. I when I was at a boys' home, I had people looking out for me, and I had a couple coaches that I remember over the years. But that's such a small point in your life. So this was my chance to actually give back to our society. Washington State in Bremerton is a blue collar town, and it's pretty rough. A lot of single families that are there, and they're doing the best that they can. But every kid in America needs a good male role model in their life to help train them to become a man.
I so agree with that. We love to sponsor the Boys and Girls Club here in
Awesome.
Collin County and what they can do for these kids. And because they have mentors, they end up, graduating from high school and going to college and making something. So I love that God gave that to you in your heart. So this is the pinnacle part. So after your football games, win or lose, you started the practice of taking a knee and praying on the football field, which I think is the coolest thing I've ever heard. But that is when the trouble started. Would you like to share what happened?
Yeah, that is the craziest story, and there's no way people can make these kind of stories up. This could only be God. I prayed after every single game, twice a week at the junior varsity game and the varsity game. So twice a week, I prayed after every single game. Nobody ever had a problem with it. Some of the kids started joining months because they were interested and they thought it was cool. And it kind of grew. So in the 8 years that I was coaching and praying after football games, we had at the end, right at the 8 year mark, we had all the kids in all the school districts doing prayer on the 50-yard line. Now that is powerful to see kids that were just literally scrapping and cussing each other out on the football field and then coming together in a moment of peace and of Thanksgiving and just lifting it up to the Lord. So this all started and it was just a wonderful thing that God did in our community. And it lasted for 8 years before anybody had a single problem with it.
So it often takes just one person, one loud person, right, to make a fuss and cause a problem. I don't know if that is exactly how it happened. Can you explain really how it turned?
Yeah, and if you could actually believe this, somebody from another school district came that was new to our school district, came and watched one of our football games, and he was so impressed by the sportsmanship and the game and the way that the kids handled themselves after the game in prayer. He called our principal and said, I just got to tell you, I've never seen this in a public school. I want to tell you how awesome it is. So this all started from a compliment. And of course, like with any compliment, of course, you want to run around and have a big investigation, and the school district lawyers got involved. And just like anything else, they're so risk adverse that they thought it was so much better if I stopped praying with the kids. And when I did that, I continued to pray by myself, but they could still see me. That's when you had the one or two people say, "Oh my gosh, look what he's doing at a public school," and that's where all the rub came from, and ended up this long battle.
So you decided to fight. You decided to fight for the right to pray. And the First Liberty Institute, based here in Dallas, helped you, but it was a 7-year battle. The movie portrays those in between years as very difficult for you and your wife, difficult on your marriage. How did you persevere during this time?
Well, I don't know how my wife did. I really, really don't. Looking back on it, the things that I put her through and the struggle that she had, she was working for the school district in HR. So she had her own entire battle she was going through while I was kind of trying to protect her and try to keep her away from the fight that I was in, which was obviously the wrong thing to do. But it was extremely tough. There was times that it was very lonely. It was very sad. It was very frustrating. We lost 7 times in a row. It did take 9 football seasons to get back onto the football field, and there was many dark times. But the only thing I had really during those times was God, the Holy Spirit, and the Lord being there in my life where I could just come to and pray and him get me through every single aspect of that.
Yeah, and I'm curious to know, did people back off from you, Coach? I mean, did you lose some friends during this time, or did you have some people who actually supported you, friends who came alongside you?
Yeah, I would say way more than 95% of people were on my side and understood that this was a battle for our First Amendment rights as a constitutional thing and not just a religious thing. It just happened to be about my faith. It could have been any faith, and I would have fought the same fight. But yeah, of course, you're going to lose people. You're going to lose friends. We lose friends over who we vote for these days. Ooh, you don't like Johnny? Ooh, you're icky. We're back in third grade. It's so sad to see where America public has gotten to. But if you lose friends because of something so trivial like that, you might be better off in losing those friends.
I so agree with you about that. And they act like they're in middle school half the time.
Yes.
It's just ridiculous. Well, eventually, the good news is the United States Supreme Court issued a landmark ruling. And I just want to say that is a testimony for answered prayer. They gave you your job back, and that opened the doors for publicly acknowledging God, something that was once deemed unconstitutional, which to me seems crazy. As a coach, where did that rank among all of your victories?
It is right up there. And I wish it was more of a victory to me that we won something, but we really didn't win anything. We put the clock back to the way it is originally designed. And that was probably my biggest frustration is that the lower courts ruled that any sign of religion in the public square, forget about just public schools, we're talking the public square, any job. If I had a Jesus fish and I was parked in public, could I get a ticket? The way that the lower courts ruled, that's the way it was. That's how insane this was. So I had the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I was really terrified if we lost this case. Not about if we won, but if we lost this case, I would have screwed up religious freedom for all Americans. And thank God Americans prayed, and God listened to the prayers of the American public and turned something that Satan tried to make into a mess into something incredible and remove 50 years of bad precedents and has opened more religious freedom to us today than we've had in our lifetime. That's the way it's supposed to be in America.
What kind of relief did you and your spouse feel after this ruling? You had to have felt like the weight of was off of your shoulders. I would think that maybe you just could breathe again. What was that like?
Yeah, very much so. It was where we could breathe again. We could start making decisions on our own. Everything was tied to the school district. Everything was tied to First Liberty Institute. It was tied to this case. We felt like we were hammered down and we couldn't move, we couldn't breathe, and the world was just waiting to see if we were going to be victorious or not. And when we did, I tell you, the freedom of that was just so amazing and liberating. Like I said, I wish I could say that it was more of a victorious thing, but it was much more of liberation and knowing that God remained faithful and returned us to exactly as he promised to the way it was originally intended. And that's all that we ever ask, is to just be reinstated and to be able to pray as an American on a field. And that's what God restored perfectly and wholly to us.
So did you go right back into prayer, right back into leading the boy? I mean, what happened after that?
It was kind of a mess. I went back to the school. The school, as you can imagine, was not really happy about me coming back, and they treated it as such. And they made it rough. It wasn't a good time going back. I wish I could say that it was a great experience going back and being with the kids, but I wasn't allowed to. My hands were tied with everything. But just in summary, is that God didn't agree to anything else except for restoring me to my original practice, and that was praying on the 50-yard line after a football game. And I was afforded to do that. I was allowed to do that by the United States Supreme Court. And the beauty of it, nobody even noticed that I was out there praying, which is the way it should be. We should be able to pray in public and it not be a big deal. So God is absolutely perfect in his timing and in his answers.
Yeah, I love that. And it's just like everyday stuff, right? It's not a news
Everyday
story
stuff.
anymore.
Yep.
But eventually did you left your coaching job to move to Florida? You were in Washington State. After such a huge victory, why did you leave that job? Is it because it was uncomfortable? What were some of your reasons?
Well, we were about year 5 into the lawsuit, and my father-in-law, who lives down here in Pensacola, Florida, he had a terrible week. He lost his job, got lung cancer, got divorced, and his son was murdered all in a 1 week period time. And he was in a really dark place. So that was a no-brainer for us. We called our attorneys and said, "Hey, since the courts aren't doing anything, can we go take care of Dad?" So we've been down in Pensacola since. And then when I did go back up to Washington State, and they took all the fun out of coaching, it was so much better and such a relief to be able to retire on my own terms and let the school heal, the football program continue on with what they were doing, and just let God take over in all of our lives and direct us. So we're here with Dad and for the rest of his days, and that's a blessing in itself for my family.
Just can't believe what you had to go through. I mean, when I hear about it and heard about it and read about it, it was like, okay, he went to the Supreme Court and they got it, but I don't know if I could have, I don't know if I could have done it. I pray I would have had that faith. But financially, what you had to go through, people not liking you, and that would hurt my feelings. I, I'm so grateful. I'm just so grateful for you and that God held you up. And I love what you said. Well, I had God, and He stayed with us and stayed with your wife. And well, as we mentioned earlier, you had a book written about you, which I have. It's an excellent book. And there's a wonderful movie about your life called Average Joe. And I really hope the viewers can pick up that book and or look at that movie. So what are your thoughts now about being a household name?
Yeah, that's very weird to me still. I was just at a convention in Atlanta and I did a book signing there. And everybody came up to me, and to go face to face with people. My big thing is to be able to travel around the country and thank people for their prayers and their support. And it's not because of anything I did, it's because of what we all did together, and this was a victory for America. So it takes a lot of the pressure off of myself. It was a big deal to put our private life on the big screen. A book is one thing, but when you throw it out there into the movie theaters and it's on streaming on Amazon and every other platform, people start to see this. And we shared a lot of secrets, a lot of dark things in both my wife and my life. And we wanted to encourage people that if God could just use a simple schmuck like me and do something as great as this, imagine what he could do with the rest of us if we just let him work in our lives. So that's where I take my all the pressure off of me.
So how are you dealing with the celebrity, traveling all around? I know that you're very humble. I can hear that you're very humble, but have you gotten used to it yet? I think about when you were that little boy and you were going through such dysfunction in the foster home and everything. Would you have ever dreamed that you'd be doing what you're doing today? I mean,
No, yeah, and it is so, and there's no real good words, but it is just really weird. Um, to have any kind of notoriety whatsoever. And I just keep my head down. Most people can recognize who I am and they go, "Hey, you look familiar." But that's the blessing of God, is that nobody remembers things that was on the news even 3 weeks ago. So I'm just another face in the crowd. And if I do get to share my testimony, then that's a wonderful thing. And everything goes to the glory of God anyway. I just keep my head down and do interviews like this, and I get to talk to the most incredible people, sharing the word of God with people.
Well, I have a question. Do you and your wife have children? And how did,
Yeah.
wait a minute, how did it affect them? And you're still married, I'm assuming. She sounds like a beautiful spiritual woman. Tell us how it affected your children. Where are they? What's going on with your children?
Right. As this was progressing, we had two kids in the high school. My daughter and my son was in the local high school that I was coaching at, and we had another son that was in the school district. So you can imagine that this was the biggest thing to ever happen to Bremerton, Washington, and in Washington State. And it made international news, not just on every channel, but everywhere across the world. So this was really big. And my kids, my daughter thought it was cool because we were trending on Facebook and Twitter and all those kind of things. So kids are pretty good about some things. My son actually helped build my relationship with him because we were interviewed by Sports Illustrated and ESPN, and he got to meet these people that's the only reason he knew something was going on, because it was on the sports network. But they rolled with it really well, and we protected them as much as we possibly could, and we pretended like it was no big deal. Even though my wife and I almost got a divorce over all this, we tried to keep that all outside of to protect our children. And God showed up not when we wanted to, but absolutely every single time we needed him to. And he has kept our family together, and our family and our relationships are so much stronger now than they ever have been.
I was going to say this experience it has to draw you, first of all, closer to the Lord, because you had to rely on him, right, to get you through it. Sometimes I hate it. I always say, Lord, help me to be, on the
Yes.
straight and narrow
Yes.
without trouble. But, trouble draws us, right? I mean, am I wrong,
Yes.
Coach?
No, you were that is true to life preaching. So I got a verse, and I even have it tattooed on my arm. It's 2 Timothy 4:7, and that was my saving grace throughout. It was my mantra, and that is, fight the good fight, finish the race, and remain faithful. Nowhere in there does it say we need to win or have a victory. We just have to show up for the fight. God is, spoiler alert, God's already got the victory. We just forget about that part in our own human self, in our own weakness. So that is the beauty of it, that we do our part, God will do his part.
Right. We have to surrender the battle to him. Well, today you are working for Coral Ridge Ministries, a ministry founded by the late D. James Kennedy, who I used to love to listen to on the radio. Tell us about what you're doing for them and why you believe this is a good fit for you, besides you're having the same last name as the founder. Can you talk about that?
And that's a funny thing. I think he's just got a wonderful sense of humor. When we're made after his image, it is so much like that. I don't always appreciate his sense of humor, but let me tell you, he does have a sense of humor. And I met with Coral Ridge and spoke at their school and a bunch of the surrounding area of Fort Lauderdale and in Florida without even knowing who Kennedy was. So this was the most amazing thing, that I find out that we just, oh yeah, another coincidence according to the Lord, that we happen to have the same name, but God put this together. Those are two puzzle pieces that belong absolutely together. We fit so well, and our message is the same: to bring people to the Lord and trust in him.
Well, thank you so much, Coach Kennedy, for joining us on Pop Talk. What a journey you have had. And thanks for continuing to stand in the gap for our rights. If any of you want to reach out to Coach Kennedy, he has a publicist. Please contact Joe at letters@crm.tv.
Yes, thanks, Coach. It was just a pleasure to interview you. It was so much fun. If you ever need anything from Pearls of Promise Ministries, let us know. If you're in the Dallas area, let's try to get you on the television side. But thank you so much. We really enjoyed it. We'll be praying for you as you continue with Coral Ridge Ministries. I think it's great that you guys have partnered up. You never know. Somebody in Florida may need a coach. You just never know.
Bless you. And my wife and I look forward to getting together with both of you.
Okay, we look forward to that as well. And we'd also love for you to connect with us here at Pearls of Promise Ministries. You can email us at info@pearlsofpromiseministries.com. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on X at Pop Talk Media or at Pearls of Promise. We're also on Instagram at pop_ministries. Find all of our books and resources on our website, pearlsofpromiseministries.com. And we have that new devotional book out that Lane and I spearheaded. It's called Treasure, and it's available on Amazon. You want to get that book.
Yes, well, I hope you do get that book. We love it. It's a devotional. But we hope also you will come to our upcoming Level Up Women's Conference on May 3rd. That's on Saturday in Louisville, Texas.
It's coming up soon.
It is coming up so soon, but we are excited because, I'm so excited about this conference. We'll be leveling up purpose, leveling up pampering, and Lisa is going to be speaking on how you level down your emotional pain. You really don't want to miss this conference, and you can buy tickets on Eventbrite and put in Level Up and you'll find it.
Yes, we hope you'll join us. It's going to be fun. Won't take the whole day. It's 10 to 3:30. So please join us at the Level Up Women's Conference this Saturday in Louisville, Texas. So that is our show for today. We're just ordinary girls
who God turned into pearls. Have a wonderful week.